I don't think that went out on the microphone, John.
Please, everybody stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First of all, welcome back to everyone from hopefully a restful vacation. 4.01, public comment on agenda items. Ladies and gentlemen, we are about to listen to public comment. Although state does not require us to hold a public comment period, we chose to do so because we believe it is crucial for us to hear from our community members about their concerns and issues. The board is here to listen. The public comment period is not designed to be a debate or dialogue. Please do not expect the board members to respond to your concerns or questions tonight. We take your comments and questions seriously and want to have sufficient time to process and research issues if need be. Any questions from the public should be submitted to the use of the public comment form, which may be obtained online or at the desk with the district clerk. We'll have the proper staff members get back to you as appropriate. I also want to point out that under state and federal privacy laws, we are unable to address any comments or questions about specific students or school personnel. We would ask you to go through the appropriate administrative channels. A total of 30 minutes at the beginning of each board meeting is set aside to allow for public comment on agenda items only. Public comments at the beginning of the meeting is limited to only the agenda items. Persons who wish to participate in the public comment portion of the meeting are asked to provide their name and specific agenda items about which they wish to speak. Individual comments on agenda items limited to 3 minutes and are welcomed. And if you wish to address items related to a school district that are not on tonight's agenda, another comment period is provided at the end of the meeting for that purpose. In the interest of civility and respect for different points of view, clapping, booing, or any disturbance or disruption during either public comment period is not permitted. At this time, we welcome your comments. Anybody want to come to the microphone to make some comments on agenda items? Okay, seeing none. I'm sorry, go ahead. Only agenda items only. Otherwise, you have to wait until the end of the board meeting. We can address any items at that point.
I'm going to speak on agenda 7.01. Can I begin?
Well, yes, library material, so I say you can, yes, you can make the connection between that, what you're going to say, and library material, so go right ahead.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Manny Zhang, and I'm an 11th grader at Rice Ketchum High School. My peers and I launched a petition against our book ban, which reached over 1,000 signatures in just 7 days. The author, Maya Kobabe, and the New York State English Council have both signed it. And yes, I've read the book, not once, but twice. Students need the option to read books they want to read. We often enjoy books that connect to us, and sometimes that may be a tough topic such as rape, violence, or even gender identity. People in the LGBTQ community and in the minority groups use these books as an outlet and a way to connect to the world to feel support. This book ban silenced these groups, these people, resulting in making them feel not valid. Not only was this an embarrassment to our school district and community, but it was also an attack on the LGBTQ community. The attempted suicide rate for the LGBTQ youth is at an all-time high of 42%. With book banning becoming an epidemic, the percentage will only increase. And I understand that you are concerned with the images, but the book is integral to show readers an experience growing up outside of cisgender and heterosexual norms, as we need to reduce the shame about sex among teens. It is inappropriate to let one parent decide what is suitable material for all other families and students. In addition, not every student has the means of transportation to go to a public library or the money to purchase a computer to read it online. I and many others are upset about how discreet this book was taken off the shelves. No one noticed it until my petition. It also concerns me how the superintendent is allowed to have this much power to override his own committee's decision to ban it. The board told me that my voice was being heard, but if it was, you would have let students and parents of our district decide on whether this book should have been banned or not. From your policy, I noticed you crossed out libraries from being able to challenge the censorship, which should in fact be allowed. As a 16-year-old who bravely stood up and started this petition while receiving death threats from adults across the country, I'm sure you can handle some criticism. And I hope kids like me across the nation are watching this and taking a stand against books being banned in their districts as well. In my hands, I have the original copy of the logo I designed for the district library media page last year. What I originally designed was meant to represent a district that supports inclusiveness, not censorship, and the removal of books. Therefore, I am requesting it to be taken down from the site until the Genderqueer, a memoir book, is unbanned. In the duration of my speech tonight, at least 4 LGBTQ+ youth have attempted suicide, which can be prevented with increased acceptance and affirmation. And one way we can do that is by returning this book to the shelf. Thank you for your time.
I think the superintendent would like to say something to that, if you don't mind.
I absolutely would. Mandy, I'd like to thank you for being here and presenting your perspective on this. Please understand that this decision was one that I made after reviewing the book based on board policy. I have stated numerous times that I have no objection to the content of the book, the topics discussed in the book. My concern is the depiction of the sexual images that are in that book, and that would be my concern regardless of who was participating in the act that is portrayed in the book. So if anyone is taking this as an affront to any specific community, that is absolutely not the case. I commend you for getting the signatures. I commend you for speaking how you feel. I value how you feel. I hope that you value how I feel as a superintendent in my role that is responsible to ensure that the materials that are available to our students in a public school are those that are suitable. And again, to say that this is being taken negatively by a segment of our community that is very important, as all of our community is important, is absolutely untrue. Once again, it is not the content of the book. It is not what is discussed in the book. I understand that. I don't have an objection to that. The objection that I have is the sexually explicit depictions that are in that book. So I felt it was necessary for me to comment on that because I'm not sure that that is what's being perpetuated, and I think it's important that people understand it from my perspective. President Lumia, thank you.
And I'll make a comment. I have to agree with the superintendent in its entirety. There's no one on this board who does not care about students' gender or orientation. I couldn't care less. But I do care about the explicit graphic representation that, in my opinion, should not be there. And I think that the rest of the board feels the same way. I appreciate your comments, but that's my feeling. Sir, next. Thank you.
I would also like to address agenda item 7.1. Timer starting? Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tyler Jornov, and I'm a student at Royce C. Ketchum High School. As a student in the district, I would like to make comments about the recent ban of the book Genderqueer by Maya Kababe and the issues surrounding it. First off, I would like to commend the school board for this decision. While there is far more that should be done, and I call upon the board to continue to take action against the promotion of homosexuality and transgenderism in schools, this was nonetheless a positive step and should be recognized as such. Romans 1:26 through 27 condemns both male and female homosexuality as a, quote, dishonorable passion. In verse 32, those who give approval to such practices are also condemned. Revelation 21:8 says that all liars will have their part in the lake of fire, naturally including those who participate in the lie that men can be women and women can be men. It is clear from the word of God that LGBT behaviors send people to hell. I find it disturbing then that so many people have made it their mission to encourage others in such a direction, including by making pro-LGBT literature easily accessible. I urge all of you who came here tonight to protest this recent school board decision to ask yourselves how you could hate people so much that you encourage them in their sexual perversion and in their falsehood. How can you claim to quote unquote love the LGBT community while encouraging them in their sin? As someone who has personally been involved in such wickedness, I can attest to how destructive homosexuality is to a person's health and well-being, and I find it reprehensible that there are people here who want to promote it. I say to the school board, do not reverse this decision. Continue to fight the promotion of LGBT ideology as much as you are able to do so, as it destroys people's lives and ultimately condemns them to an eternity in hell. And I ask those of you who are here to fight this book ban to turn away from your wicked deeds. Stop this protest. You are condemning yourselves and you are trying to drag other people down with you. It is despicable and wrong, and you should be ashamed of yourselves. That said, I am no better than you. I do not see myself as morally superior to any of you, since I too have done wicked things. I too am guilty. The only difference between me and you is that I have been forgiven and washed clean of that. To quote 1 Corinthians 6, verse 11, which immediately follows a sharp condemnation of homosexuality and other wicked deeds, quote, and such were some of you, but you were washed, you were sanctified, you were justified in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ and by the Spirit of our God. No one is beyond forgiveness if only you would seek it. That is all I have to say. Thank you for your time and attention. Good night.
Any other comments?
Good evening. I will also be addressing Agenda 7.01. My name is Emma Munoz, and I'm currently a junior at Ketchum. When I was in 8th grade here, a teacher of mine and I worked together to set up this school's first Pride Club, which they still run today. This year at Ketchum, a teacher reached out to me to see if I'd be willing to help them restart the Pride Club. After COVID, all of the students previously in Pride Club had graduated, so there was no one to run the club. I agreed, and I'm now the president, and we have weekly meetings. About a month ago, the club advisor told us about the book Genderqueer, a Memoir, and how it had been banned from our district. This was very disappointing and frustrating because not only was this banned out of nowhere, but it adds to the constant ban of LGBTQ books in high schools. By banning books that talk about certain topics, you are contributing to limiting what students think. A good quote to consider from Haruki Murakami is, if you only read the books that everyone else is reading, you can only think what everyone else is thinking. This quote is important, especially now, because it impacts how harmful book banning is. If we ban books that contain sensitive topics, we can only think about that one topic, and we can only think about what they want us to think. This book is also not being forced upon any student. It is not on any required reading list or being read in any class. While the book raises potential concern for some people, we feel it is an important book for teenage students who may be going through similar experiences. We also feel it provides a unique opportunity for students who wish to learn about others and gain empathy. It is a parental duty to determine what is suitable material for their children and enforce these decisions. It is not appropriate for one parent to determine what is suitable material for all other students. To put it differently, if you don't want to read the book or it doesn't interest you, you don't have to check it out. This banning of books with LGBTQ topics is contributing to the harmful, larger movement of banning teachings of LGBTQ in schools. Thank you for your time.
The superintendent, once again, would like to say something.
I'd like to respond to that, and I'd like to respond to the comments before. Again, I am respectful of everyone's points of view. I want to make clear my personal point of view, accepting of all different beliefs and values. There's no question about that. That's the way that I feel. And that's the way that I make decisions. But again, the reason that I recommended that the Board of Education remove the book from circulation, and to my knowledge, the book was never even in circulation at Royce Ketchum High School. The reason that I asked was, again, due to the sexual depictions that existed within the book. Now, what I'd like to do is I'd like to ask Dr. Cardwell if she wouldn't mind. Dr. Cardwell, could you step up to the podium, please? Could you respond to the comments that books involving LGBTQ and other different orientations, gender identities? Can you talk about some of the books that are available in the high schools that address those topics without having the sexual depictions included in the one that's being discussed this evening? Because I don't want it to appear that those books do not exist. So if you would not mind, thank you.
I didn't come prepared today to discuss specific titles that are available. However, I have searched the library databases for our secondary schools. I've also had multiple conversations with some of our secondary librarians and teachers. There are books in our secondary libraries that do address the LGBTQ plus communities, and there are several books in several of the libraries that can be checked out. We are also, several of us are in the process of reviewing additional books that we could recommend to the librarians for purchase.
Thank you.
And the instructional review committee will be involved in that process, correct?
Yes, any books
Thank you.
that, okay, yes.
Are there any other comments?
I thought they needed to do this. I don't like them.
Good evening, board members. I will be speaking on agenda 7.01. Better? Let's restart. Good evening, board members. I am Kimberly Munoz, and I'll be speaking on agenda 7.01. I noticed that the board crossed out the fact that other libraries are allowed to challenge their censorship, which indicating that libraries can't go against their decision. The purpose of the book is how genderqueer is more than a story, but a useful and touching guide on gender identity, clearly advocating for the LGBTQ plus community, but especially the part of the community that can feel appreciated and that they aren't going through this journey alone. It is understandable on how parents and teachers who may think this as pornography or maybe sexual content, but others, this can be a comforting and affirming book, as well as Maya Kobabe, Courage on Sharing Your Story, the author of Genderqueer, a memoir. Maybe this could be a reason that people feel safer in public, which knowing that they aren't alone in this self-discovery journey. But this is also an amazing portrayal of the queer coming-of-age books to be published. To the adults talking about the contents of pornography, your child does not have to read this. But something important to point out about this book is that it's largely directed to teens and young adults that are starting to experience their own sexuality. However, saying that the book needs to be banned from schools outright denies kids the opportunity to see themselves reflected on paper. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Casey Pavone, and I'll be speaking on number 7.01.
Can you speak louder, please?
Sorry. I'm Casey Pavone, an 11th grader at Royce Ketchum High School, and I'll be speaking on agenda number 7.01. Catherine Patterson once said, "It is not enough to simply teach children to read. We have to give them something worth reading, something that will stretch their imaginations, something that will help them make sense of their own lives and encourage them to reach out towards people whose lives are quite different from their own." These great words could not be better applied than to a situation such as this. Genderqueer, a memoir, stands to benefit not only children who are struggling with their own gender identity and looking for reassurance and validation in their feelings, but also those who have never felt that way at all. A story like this, being as in-depth and honest as it is, presents a way for someone who's never dealt with these feelings to sympathize and better understand genderqueer individuals. Maya Kobabe talks about experiences that, while very common for trans individuals, a cis person might not even consider. This provides a unique perspective for cis allies and comfort to trans students that they are not alone. In regards to the book's explicit imagery, I would like to gently remind you that the unbanning is only in regards to high schoolers. In the year 2022, we need to move past the idea that teenagers must be sheltered from sex. The shame that we've perpetuated for far too long only stands to stunt the emotional growth of our species. It is also worthwhile to note that it is not the school's job to determine what information is and isn't appropriate for a student. Something that is okay with one family, that one family is okay with showing their children may be considered entirely inappropriate to another, and vice versa, what is inappropriate to one parent may be entirely appropriate to another. If the school system attempted to censor out everything that every family considered inappropriate, our libraries would be entirely empty. And judging by the amount of support gathered in favor of the book, such as the petition, and in such a short period of time at that, I doubt that it could even be argued that a majority of parents find it inappropriate. I would also like to remind the board and my peers that religious views should not be allowed as reasoning for banning items from a public school. Finally, I would like to state that a book like this may be life-saving for an individual whose family are unsupportive. According to the Trevor Project, a highly regarded organization focused on supporting LGBTQ+ youth, a 2020 peer-reviewed study by the Trevor Project's researchers, published in the Journal of Adolescent Health, found that transgender and non-binary youth were 2 to 2.5 times as likely to experience depressive symptoms, seriously consider suicide, and attempt suicide compared to their cisgender LGBTQ peers. If doing something as simple as unbanning a book could in any capacity reduce the chances of a student committing suicide, I'd personally be willing to overlook a few risque scenes.
All right, thank you, everybody, for your comments. At this point, let's see, 5 point. I'm sorry, the superintendent wants to make another comment, completed comment.
I would like to thank all of our students who are here this evening in support of their beliefs. That's important. That's good. Stick to your passions. You were heard. Your words will certainly be considered, and you're valued. And obviously, there's a difference of opinion, and that's something that we have. But I would say to you, continue to express your feelings in regards to issues such as these. They're greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Monk. 5.01, Superintendent.
John, some people raised their hand.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Hello, board. Hello, superintendent. My name is Juan Vasquez. Hi. My name is Juan Vasquez. I'm a taxpayer in the Wappingers School District. So I've been hearing all this stuff. So what I want to say is that I would be disappointed if you don't put the book back where it belongs. All these kids, all they want is to love their friends that are going through a hard time. They want access to a book that may help somebody to understand what they're going through. I don't understand why you're pulling that book off the shelf. I know you mentioned there's a couple of pictures in there, 5 or 6 pictures, maybe, as they say, pornographic, which I don't think so. But the main thing is that all these people are here for love, for all that stuff, and then I hear somebody comes up here and spews hate. And this is what you're doing by taking the book off the shelves. You're allowing the hate to continue. You're allowing the hate to win. You can't allow that. We're a school district. All these kids are here for love. They're not here for that. The hate that was spewed, that really got me. I wasn't going to talk. I wasn't going to say anything, but the hate has to stop. Has to stop. That book belongs on the shelf. That's it. That's all I got to say. Thank you for your help.
And thank you, Dr. Okay, so thank you for your, we appreciate that. All right, are there any, one more? Go ahead.
Hi, my student is a freshman at Royce Ketchum, and it was brought to my attention about the book ban recently, and I didn't respond to it until I had read the book, and after having read the book, I was discussing it with a friend and her non-binary child, and I was explaining how the book moved me, how it was not simply a story of, just a graphic novel, a coming of age, but a very in-depth clarification of what it feels like inside to not understand who you are and your sense of self. That story alone, I think, is very potent for teenagers everywhere, especially coming out of COVID, especially not understanding who we are, how we're supposed to be, how we respond, what our bodies feel like. I found this story to be very moving, and in discussing it with their teenage child, they asked for it. They had been cutting themselves recently because they are confused about who they are. And by just discussing the book, there was a glimmer of hope in this person's eyes. They asked for it, we ordered it from Amazon, and the next day they devoured it. So that's one point I would like to make, that even just one person if you can save one person with one book, that's a no-brainer to me. The second issue, I understand that some of the images may be graphic to some, but we live in an age where people have access to porn on their phones every day, every second of the day. These kids, if they want to see titillating images, they know where to find it. I really don't think that a cartoon drawing in a graphic novel that's a coming of age story is really so much more offensive than some of the anime that sits on the shelves of Royce C. Ketchum's library, where the intention is to titillate. If it was images that were offensive, then I feel like maybe you would also be looking at some of your heteronormative graphic novels and not just the one that happens to be focused on the LGBTQ community. Thank you.
Hi, I've sent you guys emails regarding this book in particular, only because it was brought up at several meetings.
Excuse me, could you please
I'm a parent of two.
Please identify yourself who you are.
I'm a parent of two students in the Wappinger School District. They're both high school students. I don't agree with this book being on your shelves. I'm sorry. There's images depicted of two young men giving oral sex to each other, okay? Whether it's a cartoon or not, if an artist in your school were to draw these images, you would not be hanging them up on the walls, okay? They make people feel uncomfortable. And whether it's heterosexual doing oral sex or the same sex, it's uncomfortable for people, especially for young teens. It shouldn't be out there. And yeah, there are kids that look up pornography on the computers, and it's not allowed in the schools. It's not allowed to be brought into the schools. It's not allowed to be looked at on the computers. I protect my children. I do everything I can to secure their cell phones from them seeing this type of information, because they're just too young. They can't decipher the difference of love and porn and things like that. They're young, they're growing up. I try to protect them as much as I can. When we were kids, we didn't have this at our fingertips, at our hands, like it is today. This book, just being out there. If you want to buy the book for your child, go ahead. Go look it up. Go look it up on the internet. It should not be in a school library, because it's in the high school library. You have high school kids who have younger siblings at home. They bring these books home. Those younger siblings will be seeing these images, and it's not right. It is not right. And it's not right for even them to be seeing it. I'm sorry. I can't get the image out of my head of that book. There are several images, and like Dr. Bong said, the text is not the problem. The images are. And it doesn't make it okay. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you. Please try to avoid that if possible. Are there any other comments?
Yes, I'm up here at the microphone. Hello. My name is Isabella Vargas. I'm a junior at Royce C. Ketchum. I'm someone who has questioned my sexuality, who identifies as queer, and who has also had her own mental problems and own personal feelings that have come with trying to find out who I am, simply based on media I've seen that is hated on people who are queer, people who have different gender identities than cis people. I've read this book, and I've also read books that are in the school curriculum for English classes. I take APs as a junior. I've read almost everything. I've read books that deal with domestic violence, books that deal with murder, books that deal with abuse, and all this stuff. And that is deemed okay to be presented to us. And whether it's being seen visually or not, you can obviously imagine these graphic things in your head as well. When it comes to this book, we talk about how the explicit images are what's wrong with this book, but you can make an explicit image in your head simply reading a book like A Separate Piece or something like that, which is in my curriculum this year that I've read, where someone got shoved out of a tree, broke their leg, stuff like that.
And I just don't think it's right that we have such this strong hate towards the topic of sex for teenagers when it's very frequent. You're never going to stop teenagers from having sex. You talk about how porn and these explicit images weren't at your fingertips when you all were younger, because we now have the internet more widely, but you were still having sex at a young age, no matter what. That won't change no matter what is on the shelves at a library or not. It's better that people can see what is actually deemed as sexually okay instead of hearing stuff like hate that makes them want to cut or makes them want to kill themselves because they don't see any representation in something like a library. And the whole idea that this sex culture is bad and it's damaging us is very untrue. As someone who reads at a mature reading level, as someone who has grown up with dealing with situations that may be not very correct for me to have experienced at this age, I don't think it's fair that simply because this book had pornographic images, it should be completely wiped from the shelves when there are other books in the library that I've been made to read for a curriculum that are way more explicit than one image in a novel. That's all I had to say. Thank you.
Dr. Bach, oh, okay, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Hello. Hello. My name is Layla Clayfat. I am a 7th honors student of this very middle school. And I wanted to speak my piece about genderqueer. I'm not going to be speaking about the book itself, but after the discussion that has come up about it, I wanted to say that I believe that books like it, with the central idea, not like the explicit stuff, should be pushed in the libraries of our school. Because I believe that the story and the message that this book is trying to push is very important to young teens and coming of age young adults who are questioning their gender and sexuality and who need that reassurance in themselves. And I also want to state that I believe that students should be made a part of the making of these decisions, because they're the ones that are going to be reading these. And that is very important to help our community grow as a district and as schools and as maybe just even a friend group or a classroom. And yeah, that is all I have to say. Thank you.
Are there any comments? Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Christine Vasquez. I live in Wappinger Falls, New York, and a taxpayer. I'm going to discuss Agenda 7.01. First of all, I find that this book is necessary to have in the high school library. Children of the LGBTQ community do need this type of book. As far as the obscene, which is called the obscene scene, is hard to find. This book is 250 pages. I've seen this, the one page of where the two females are having the oral sex scene. I mean, you really have to go look through the book to find it. It's a cartoon. It doesn't even look like that body part that they're using, because it's not, because if you read the book, you will find out what it actually is. So, I mean, no parent knows who their child is going to be when they grow up. They could be lesbian, anything. And it's not, and this book can sometimes help a child that is maybe questioning who they are, where they're going in life, if they are asexual, sexual, they like males, females, both. I mean, this book really did address a lot of issues. And And I don't find it as an obscene book. I don't think it is under definition as far as the United States federal law on obscenity. The United States Supreme Court, Miller versus California, 413 U.S. 1524, 25, 1973. Smith versus United States, 431 U.S. 291. I don't think that this follows the book passes as far as being pornography, because it doesn't, because there is a three-pronged Miller test as follows: whether the average person applying contemporary adult community standards finds this matter taken as a whole to be erotic, abnormal, unhealthy, degrading, shameful. It goes on and on. The whole thing is that this book in no way is genderqueer depicted as being as pornography. If that's the reason why the school district took the book off the shelf because it's depicted as obscene or as pornography, it's incorrect, because this is not pornography. As someone else stated, anybody could even look at this, can look online. Teenagers could look on their cell phones, TV, everywhere it is around you. Sex is around you. It's a sexual, everything. TikTok, young girls doing TikTok, very sexual. Everything seems to be sexual in this society, more than it was when as far as I remember, when I was a teenager, attending this junior high myself. Time's up.
This will be the last comment, okay? There's 30 minutes already, so case closed. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Brandy Stacy. I am a graduate of this district. I am a parent of a child in this district, and I'm a school psychologist. And I just wanted to say that I support these students. I think the benefits of this book far outweigh a few illustrations to a student who is questioning or who is looking for some sort of representation. And high school students are not likely going to the library bookshelves to search for graphic images. Again, a student who does search for this book is likely searching for it because they need help of some sort, they have questions, and they are just looking for something to help them. And that's all I have to say right now. Thank you.
All right, with that being said, thank you for your comments. 5.01, Superintendent Report. I'm sorry.
I think you've got board comments, right?
Sorry, 4.02, communication announcements I've received from the Board of Education. Does anybody want to make comments from the board? Anybody? Well, I'll just make one comment. I went to a play at John Jay High School, and the actors, the sets, the musicians were exceptional. I hope some of you got to see that play. It was really, 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 really good. It's called Mamma Mia. So thank you to all the participants and all the advisors for such a fantastic performance. Okay, with that being said, somebody else? Yeah, John, go ahead.
Mamma Mia, I would like to concur with your comments. The high school performances that we've had within the past couple of weeks in this district were both very impressive. Equally as impressive to me this evening was the eloquence with which our student body stepped forward and spoke and respectfully conducted themselves. And I find that to be commendable also. Thank you.
Any other comments? With that being said, thank you. At this point, the superintendent report. Right.
Thank you, President Lumia. I also echo Trustee Morgan's comment. Students, thank you for being here, and we are always here to listen to your thoughts and your views. A couple of things that I would like to discuss before we go into the superintendent's recommended budget for the next school year. The Wappinger Central School District was once again identified for a best community in music education for the 5th year in a row. I would like to thank our director, Bonnie King. I would like to thank all of the faculty and staff in the music department, and of course, our students. If it weren't for the exceptional job that our students did, we would not be worthy of this honor. So we want to thank you, and we also want to thank the parents for all of their support. We realize the time and commitment that it is for you as a parent, and the amount of productions and rehearsals that our students have, and we want to thank you for supporting them. And again, congratulations to everyone involved. A round of applause, please. One of the best communities for music education, Wappinger Central School District. Congratulations to all involved. In addition to that, it also has come to my attention that over the break, the Royce Ketchum Debate Club participated at Columbia University. We had 6 students participate. I don't have the particular information from what I hear. All 6 of them did very well, and 3 of them received awards, a first place, a second place, and a third place award. Congratulations, Royce Ketchum Debate Team. Great job at Columbia. Round of applause for them as well. Thank you. And now I'll move on to the recommended budget presentation.
Once again, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Director Schouten. Get the video set up here. Okay, Ms. Crandall, are we ready?
How you doing, Greg?
Okay, so the topic of this year's budget is connecting with our community, and we believe that we've done that through our budget process. I'd like to recognize the members of the Board of Education, President Lumia, Vice President Kellen, Trustee Cahill, Trustee Odoms, Trustee Johnson, Trustee Sloshower, Trustee McFarland, Trustee Spencer, Trustee Morgan, members of the district office senior staff, Mr. Darren Lokema, our Assistant Superintendent for Compliance and Information Systems, Dr. Michelle Cardwell, Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction, Ms. Kristen Crandall, Assistant Superintendent for Finance and Business Development, Mr. Richard Zipp, our Assistant Superintendent for Student Support Services and Accessible Education, Ms. Renee Harris, our Director for Human Resources, Mr. Ronald Brois, our Director of Facilities and Operations, and our District Clerk and the Secretary to the Superintendent, Ms. Alberta Pedro. If we can move on to the next slide. So connecting with our community. This hasn't changed dramatically from the last presentation. As you know, we began this process in November. So what has changed at the last board meeting, as I was speaking, I indicated that there was some breaking news, and that breaking news is that New York State approved the budget. So what did that budget do for us? We knew what the governor's recommended budget is. This budget provides an additional $813,000 in additional aid. And I need to thank all of our local state representatives for fighting for this additional funding for education. I would like to thank the Legislative Action Committee of the Board of Education. The rationale for the funding falls right in line with the goals and objectives of the Board of Education and the district. So what are we doing with that additional money? We've talked about the importance of student health and wellness. Obviously, we're coming off a pandemic that has existed for almost 2 years. And we have included, as I mentioned last week, the fact that we will be adding 3 nursing positions within the district. We will also provide an additional day of late run transportation coverage at both of our junior high schools. So that's additional late buses for after school activities for our students to be involved. Contract negotiations. We still have 7 of our collective bargaining units that we will be negotiating within the next year. We have the addition of a special education teacher in tuitions. And we are very pleased to indicate that we are going to migrate from school tool to Infinite Campus. What is that going to do for us? That is going to be a much more effective communication tool between the schools, the teachers, the district, and the parents. And we have met the goal. The tax levy increase will be, as I stated before, 0.83%, which for the first time since the inception of the tax cap is the lowest increase in the tax levy. And for the first time, the district is not going to be recommending a budget that goes right up to the tax cap. So the tax levy, about $180 million is the approved tax levy for last year. As you can see, the difference in the budget levy to levy, $1.4 million. That's a 0.83%. How did we do that? We have gone through systemically and looked at all of our systems, as we are the 9th largest school district in New York State. And we have the largest school managed, run transportation fleet in New York State, which we are very, very proud of. We did some overhauls of our systems, and we looked for areas that we could condense so we would not be duplicating services. We can move on to the next slide. So what does this entail? An additional 14.4 positions to support social and emotional health for students and staff, such as social workers, ENL teachers, special education teachers, counselors, nurses, office staff, safety and security officers at Wappingers Junior High School and Van Wyck Junior High School. So I believe this shows our commitment to student health and wellness as well as their safety. We have also proposing in this budget that we have a school resource officer at Royce Ketchum High School. We have a school resource officer at John Jay High School. In the proposed budget for next year, we will have a school resource officer at Wappingers Junior High School, and we will have one at Van Wyck Junior High School. An additional 4 custodial positions for district buildings, as well as overtime for activities and events coverage. Why? Because we are increasing the amount of activities that we have for our students. Boys volleyball and girls modified lacrosse teams will be added. We are looking at a marching band for both Royce Ketchum and John Jay High School. We have an additional position to assist with the increased reporting needs related to human resources that are required from New York State. As I mentioned, an additional day of late runs at our middle school to allow students to continue to be as involved as possible with clubs and activities, not only at our high schools, but at our middle schools. We talked about the move from school tool to Infinite Campus. We have New York State district level building project, $100,000 maximum. The restoration of funding for school level supplies and activities, including field trips. Allocated funds for the continued implementation of universal pre-K program. It has been extremely successful this year, and we are very, very, very pleased with the funding that we received from New York State to implement this initiative. And increased funding for the preventative maintenance of our athletic fields and facilities. So what does it mean for the taxpayers? Value of a home. So let's take a look at $250,000. If your home is valued at $250,000, according to the current assessments, that's an extra $39 estimated dollars per school tax for the school year. $450, 72 estimated school tax increase for the school year. That is based on the current assessments as of today. So again, we look at the historical perspective. We go back to 1718, the tax cap, maximum amount, 0.95%. Where was Wappingers? 0.95%. 1819, 2.92 was the tax cap. Where was Wappingers? 2.92. 1920, tax cap. How high could we go? 1.42. Where did Wappingers go? 1.42. 2021, how high could we go? 3.64. How high did we go? 3.64. 21-22, how high could we go? 2.49. How high did we go? 2.49. This year, again, for the first time since the inception of the tax cap, the maximum amount we could go is 1.38%. We are below that by 0.5% at 0.83, and we've been able to do it. and we've been able to add positions as well. I want to thank Ms. Crandall for all of her work on the budget. Her and I have worked on this for quite some time, along with other members of the district team. And we are very pleased as to where we are at this point that we are able to recommend to the Board of Education. So where does the money come from? Almost about $266 million, 68.57% comes from the tax levy, 29.11% New York State aid, 1.42 from the fund balance, and 0.90 comes from other revenue. Where does the money go? We're a people business, obviously. 50.78% goes to salaries, 32.49% goes to benefits, contractual 7.65, BOCES 7.16, supplies 1.64, textbooks 0.22, and equipment 0.06. Expenses by category. Instruction, that's almost 54% of our budget. Undistributed, 32.49. General support, 8%. Transportation, 5.63. So the budget vote is on May the 17th. We will have a public hearing on the budget at Roy C. Ketchum Library on Monday, May the 9th at 5:30, which will be followed by a board meeting, which I believe the board meeting will be here, correct, Ms. Crandall? Okay. We have our website, and we thank you for your emails, budget@wcsdny.org. Email us with questions, concerns, and feedback. There's also information on the website under 2022-2023 budget. But again, at the beginning of the year, we talked about three priorities that we had for our students collectively as a community, as a Board of Education, and as a district administration. And we believe that we have met those goals with the budget that is being recommended to you this evening. And with that, I thank you for your time. And Ms. Crandall, I thank you again for all of your work. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Schott. You're welcome.
Are there any questions on the superintendent's presentation? Yes, Peggy?
Okay. I would like to congratulate the superintendent on being able to add positions for students' social and emotional health, for security at our junior highs and high schools, and for increasing the extracurricular activities and opportunities for our students. Especially, I'm happy to see that you're able to put in another day of bus runs from the junior highs so that the students who do not have transportation after school can participate in more sports and clubs. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other comments? I have one quick question. I think it's important for the community to understand the chart that you gave us regarding the amount of tax increase that people should receive. For example, you said $450,000, you see a $72 increase in the tax. Could you please explain why that sometimes that changes? That we have no control over that? Please explain that to the community.
Sure. So as Dr. Bonk had indicated, the assessed values that we have at our disposal at this point in time are from the previous school year. So in August, we prepared the tax rates based on updated information from each of the municipalities. And we have 7 municipalities that we deal with, 2 counties, and there's quite a bit of information. It changes. It changes from year to year. Grievance Day actually will be happening in the next couple of weeks at the local municipalities where taxpayers have the right to come in and grieve and speak to the assessors about their rates, assessed values on their property. So when we do this calculation, we have to use the most recent information we have. It is a year old, and that is why rates may not line up accordingly, because again, there's the star piece that also can be put in there. This is our best estimate. It's based on just homestead properties, which are personal properties, not residential properties. So it's our best estimate at this time. And we always say multiple times, this is based on the most recent assessments we have, which are not current year.
Thank you, Ms. Crandall. Are there any other questions? With that being said, 5.03, adoption of the proposed 2022-2023 budget.
Resolved that the Board of Education of the Wappinger Central School District does hereby approve the adoption of the proposed 2022-2023 school year budget in the amount of
I wish.
We hope not. $265,700 million, yes. I'll start over, okay? $265,714,022 to be presented to the district voters as proposition number 1. Notice is hereby further given that at said annual election to be held on May 17th, 2022, the following proposition will be submitted. Shall a budget for Wappinger Central School District for the fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2022, in the amount of $2,265,714,022 be adopted, and the necessary taxes to meet such expenditures be levied and collected.
Motion, Marie, second. Peggy, all those in favor? Aye.
Thank you, everyone.
That's not everybody.
Oh, so sorry.
7, I think is, please raise your hands. All except Ms. Carrie Keller. I'm opposed. Okay, it's 5.04, approval of the school property tax report card.
Resolved that the Board of Education of the Wappinger Central School District does hereby approve the adoption of the school property tax report card for 2022-2023 as stated.
Motion, Marie, second. Peggy, discussion?
Point of information.
Yeah.
Should the note be part of the record?
No. Any other questions?
If it says as stated, it stops there.
All right, all those in favor? You're not accept Ms. Carrie Keller?
This is an abstinence. This is not a no.
Okay. Let's see what's next. 6.01. Marie, does anybody want to pull anything from the agenda? Anyone else? Okay, no, go ahead. Read it.
Okay. Resolved that the Board of Education does hereby approve the following consent agenda items as stated. 6.02, 6.03, 6.04, 6.05, 6.06, 6.07, 6.08, 6.09, and 6.10.
Motion. Marie, second. Peggy, all those in favor? Unanimous. Okay, new business, 7.01, first reading policies. Again, the several policies there, I would suggest that the community read those particular policies, and if you have to make any comments, make them to the chairman of the policy committee, Ms. Peggy Kellum.
Okay.
All right. Any addition to the agenda?
Yes, I would like to make an addition to the agenda.
I second by Mary Johnson. All those in favor? Unanimous. 8.02, motion to the agenda, please.
Be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby adopts the findings of fact and recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools dated March 30th, 2022, which endorsed the finding of guilt by the appointed hearing officer, Allison Smith, dated March 29th, 2022, regarding student number 1003043. And be it further resolved that the board president is hereby authorized to sign the board determination letter on behalf of the Board of Education. And be it further resolved that the district clerk is hereby authorized to mail the board determination letter to the students' parents.
Motion. Marie, second. Peggy, all those in favor? Unanimous. 9.01, comments from the public. Seeing none. Make a motion to adjourn. All in favor? So somebody, okay, I'm sorry, go ahead. I didn't see it. Thank you.
Is there an opportunity to put those slides back on the screen for an explanation to the public as to the other component of why Wappinger Central School District is able to decrease below the tax levy this year as opposed to all the years prior? There's a component that I remember learning about that perhaps I'm incorrect on, is that our tax base has grown. It is not just the rate of assessment within the 5-7, excuse me, I'm not good at the small math, but the rate of assessment within each town. It is that the overall tax base has grown within Wappinger School District that has allowed us to not have to go to the cap. Can we have a conversation with Kristen for the public about how the economic development within this county has affected Wappinger's Central School District?
I think normally it's not done, but I think you have a very good question.
Or the extent to which it has not been accomplished.
When we work on the tax rates at any point in time during the tax process, there are the three pieces. There's the equalization rate, there is the assessed values of the properties, and then there's the portion that the district needs in order to be able to support. Now, one of the main reasons why the district is able to not go to the cap is, in effect, state aid. State aid is a big piece this year. New York State started running foundation aid, which has not been run in 12 or 13 years. So by instituting additional state aid, we were able to take that burden off of the taxpayers because that state aid is available to us.
So it's actually like a second revenue stream from the state.
When you, in that presentation, we do show revenue in that pie chart. So if you look at prior years, our revenue from New York State aid is about 24.56, 24.6%. It is now at 29.07%. So may not seem like a big shift, but when we can not have to utilize as much of that piece of the pie from the taxpayers, that's how we're going to do it.
So the pressure of having the burden be on the taxpayers is being underwritten by the state of New York.
This year, that is correct. And I understand what you're saying with regard to the tax base growing. However, the piece of the pie is already smaller as a result of the New York State aid piece.
Yes, no, that's an absolutely good, that's a good indication. However, the part that we're all so busy at our jobs at and so busy in the public sector doing everything that we do, what's missing is the tax base for the Wappinger Central School District growing?
Last year it did. When in comparison, again, we're using older numbers.
Yeah,
right?
no, you can't compare it now.
So there were a handful of years where the assessed values, which could be the assessed values, which are both homestead and non-homestead, meaning personal or residential and commercial, they did decrease in the past. Remember though, that's an inverse rate. So if the assessed values go down, that means tax rates have to go up in order to be able to hit that number that we need to be able to balance budget.
So how do you actually explain to the community the adding on of new businesses, the adding on of new properties, and the development of the tax base to support the residential portion
versus commercial.
Well, and this is not only applying to school districts, it also applies to your local municipality roles as well.
Which actually set the tax rate.
That's correct. So there is some, there's some differential there. And we, as a school district, get those numbers much later than our local municipalities do. So we get those numbers mid-July, and we're approving tax rates in late August. There's not a lot of turnaround time with regard to that, but what we have seen over the past 2 years for sure is that we have seen an increased rate in our assessments, which means the residential properties are increasing in value, as well as the non-homestead piece, the commercial properties increasing as well.
So I thank you for your time, all of you. What I want to know, just to finish up, because I'm over 3 minutes, but what I want to understand is the extent of the information that you're given from the municipalities. Does it ever speak to the base of the town that you're being given that tax rate from? Does it ever speak to the growth, the economic development growth? Do you ever see any language? Do you ever see any charts, any graphics?
Not from the municipality. But we do try to include where those increases lie in our presentation when it comes to school taxes.
So projections from the school district.
That's correct, from our school, from our information, but we don't receive details.
Okay.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you for your explanation, Christian, and thank you for that. We're now making a motion to adjourn. Second, Marie, all in favor? Unanimous. Thank you.